Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my Episode 2 review of Hard Knocks training camp with the Oakland Raiders. My God, do we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it, shall we? Hey, everybody, how's it going? All right, so similar to last week, this week's episode of Hard Knocks training camp with the Oakland Raiders, it started off with another fiery speech from John Gruden. In week one, he talked about having a dream to make a Pro Bowl, make the Super Bowl. But instead of, he's not in the business of having dreams anymore. He's in the business of creating nightmares, right? The entire, first episode was kind of around the idea that we want to impose our will on teams as we go into the 2019 season. And that was a great way to start off the episode. Going into week two, another fiery speech talking about raising the bar, right? He was sick and tired of, meandering and just being average, right? He's done with that. John Gruden, has set the table. Okay, we have the pieces here to make a run. Let's get it done. And the fiery speech that he made of raising the level, it went all the way through this entire episode. The entire episode of Hard Knocks, the episode 2, raised its level comparatively to week 1. Everything I wanted that I was mentioning last week happened this week. And my goodness, was it a fantastic episode. So we have a lot to talk about today, and a lot of it was fantastic. So let's begin. And as soon as the episode starts, something that I forgot to mention last week was the nostalgic intro that they have. Sure, they have the HBO Hard Knocks music, but that the little the autumn wind is a pirate. The Raiders, blah, blah, blah. That thing, my goodness, it's grown on me, and it was noticeable enough last week. I just, forgot to mention it. And then this week, again, they hit it with it again, and it was fantastic. So great way to start. I like the addition of that nostalgic feel with a throwback of, everything from the Raiders organization. So that was nice. So we started the episode getting the main thing out of the way, Antonio Brown. He was the talk of the town last week, and he's been for the last couple months. And for this last week, Antonio Brown's name has just been everywhere. Whether you turn on the TV, turn on ESPN, NFL Network, you go on Twitter, Antonio Brown is everywhere. Whether we're talking about his feet, whether we're talking about the helmet, the episode established the condition of his foot. They talked about the frostbite. They showed his feet. Antonio Brown himself took time to show everybody just how badly hurt he is. As of right now, it doesn't look great, but he's healing. It's a process, right? What he was saying was that they're taking a scalpel and peeling off or letting that dead layer of skin eventually fall off so that next level that next layer of skin can eventually callus up, similar to the top layer. But man, it's brutal. To say the least, it's brutal. So at least they went ahead and they established that. They set the base. Okay, Antonio Brown, yes, he's hurt. Frostbite. This is how bad it is. Now let's get into Hard Knocks. And to start off right after that, we talked about new players because it mentioned that, yes, Antonio Brown is not in practice. He's not in training camp, but we need other people to step up within this offense. And similar to what I mentioned last week, we need rookies, right? Hard Knocks has always been about rookies trying to make the final cut and make the roster. And that's exactly what they did. They introduced 2 rookies that weren't a part of the top 3 guys that we mentioned last week, the top 3, first round picks that they had. This was Keelan Doss and Max Crosby. Keelan Doss, wide receiver, Max Crosby, defensive end. Both guys from smaller schools, Eastern Michigan for Crosby and Keelan Doss from UC Davis. So as of right now, yes, they're smaller school guys. Yes, they're probably on the roster bubble. One of them was drafted in the 4th round. The other one was an undrafted free agent rookie. So as of right now, they're both trying to make this roster. And throughout the entire episode, we raised the level with them because we watched their progression of their week of practice and how it resulted in their game. And that's what we'll get into. But overall, I like that they're introducing rookies. That's exactly what I want to see. I want to see you build characters that I can cheer for. I want to root for this team. I might be wearing a Rams shirt right now, but it was never a better opportunity. They practiced with the Rams this coming week, and they played their preseason game against them. So I thought I had to rep, the LA. I'm from LA. It is what it is. So, but either way, I thought it was a great introduction to those two, giving us kind of a little bit of kind of a introduction to their personalities specifically. We started off with Keelan Doss. Him and Gruden had a great interaction. I mentioned last week that I didn't like the back and forth between Gruden and Derek Carr. Gruden's growing on me by a lot. I mean, listen, I'm a Gruden grinder. I love Gruden, right? Don't get me wrong. The guy should still probably be doing Monday Night Football. I missed that he's not doing that. But without a doubt in my mind, the interactions that I saw from him this coming week, I'm fully in on the Gruden train. It's he fired me up a lot, and a lot of the interactions that he had with players, with especially Keelan Doss in the beginning, it was enjoyable and it was funny. I enjoyed it a lot. Moving on, a lot of, like I mentioned, Gruden's interactions had to do with the backup quarterbacks. There can be rookies, sure, but when we're talking about the backup quarterback position of Nathan Peterman and Mike Glennon came in. He started a year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers many years back, even before Jameis, right? So Mike Glennon has been around the league for a while. Last year, he was signed to a major deal with the Chicago. No, it was 2 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago, signed a major deal in the offseason with Chicago. Obviously, that did not pan out because they drafted Mitchell Trubisky to be the future of that organization. Obviously, Mike Glennon has just been a career backup his entire career. Same thing with Nathan Peterman. But when they went on introducing Nathan Peterman, of course they had to show that Los Angeles Chargers game in which he threw 4 interceptions like in the first half of this. That's brutal. That's going to follow him his entire career. Hopefully, he can change the narrative for his own sake, because as much as we like to make fun of these kind of things, but it sucks. You know what I mean? Like he wants to be a professional athlete. He's good enough to be in the league. There's a reason why he's vying for a backup spot. Yet that thing is never going to escape him. So hopefully he can change the narrative and rewrite the history of his career. But as of right now, it sits as Mr. I throw 4 interceptions in the first half of the Chargers game, unfortunately. But a lot of the interactions that he had with Glennon and Peterman was be louder, be vocal. You're the quarterback of this team. You have to step up and become a leader. I want the best out of you, right? Yes, he was chewing into them at times, and a lot of choice words that I'm not going to repeat, but that's exactly what I want to see from my head coach. I want a guy that it's going to be on my ass, but at the same time motivate me to become something greater. And be able to produce. And that's exactly what we saw from Gruden. Another positive that was awesome this week in Hard Knocks. So, obviously, this week had to do with playing against the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams were coming into Napa to practice, and then eventually later that week they were going to have their first preseason game against them. Prior to all of that, there was a couple of tidbits of funny stuff, like the rookies that had to go up in front of the group of every single player, their name, their school, their signing bonus, and then they got to sing a song. That's always fun. That's extremely enjoyable. We saw, what was it? I think was it Crosby up there and Renfro? Both of them were singing, both rookie wide receiver and defensive end. That was extremely enjoyable. That's always funny. On top of that, Renfro, speaking of him, before they had their joint practice with the Los Angeles Rams, he's standing next to Derek Carr, and he asks him, "Are you nervous?" Like, that is, you cannot script that. That is so good. That's just like genuine emotion coming out of a rookie wide receiver that doesn't have much experience, asking Derek Carr, who's going into his 6th year, "Are you nervous about a joint practice?" Like, that's absolutely hilarious, and it's just I thought it was great. It's pure. That's what it is, and I love seeing that kind of stuff. And then obviously we'll talk about the practice, but throughout the way we before we got there, there was stuff about like the grievance between Antonio Brown and his helmet. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. There were some interactions between Jonathan Abram and Charles Woodson, because both of them share the number 24. Obviously, Charles Woodson, is he not in the Hall of Fame yet? How many years has he been retired? Is it enough? Andrew's got to look this up. Is Charles Woodson not in the Hall of Fame? Because that would be quite the mistake by everybody if we haven't gotten Charles Woodson in the Hall of. He must be. has a chance in 2021. Wow, what's the year? Is it 5 years until they allow you to think? Anyway, either way, Charles Woodson, the Raider great, the Packer great, Michigan, University of Michigan. I mean, he's one of the greatest secondary cornerback safeties of all time. So, getting that respect with Abram and getting that confirmation, like, yes, you can wear my number and, just represent and be a leader for this team because we need you right now. That was awesome. It's like a little bit of a passing of the torch right now between Abram and Woodson, and I thought that was great. That was an extra addition that was really enjoyable. So let's go right into between the inter-team practice between the Rams and the Raiders. And like I mentioned last week, I wanted to see competition number one, right? Because last week we didn't see any. It was walkthroughs. It was Abram hitting people, and nobody else wanted to get hit. I wanted to see competition, and I wanted to see fighting, and that is exactly what I want. Because I want to see emotion. I want to see people want it. What is it? I want to see people want to win and want to compete and have fun that way. That's exactly what we saw. Bringing in the Los Angeles Rams, that's pretty good competition. And they made that pretty well known when they were doing their little film study. They brought up Aaron Donald. They brought up Jared Goff, another G-Man. And then the next G-Man, Todd Gurley. They didn't show too much of Gurley, to be honest. But I know he did practice in between teams, so he's healthy. Everybody relax. But they brought that up. They established that. And then practice, I think, day one of practice with the Raiders didn't go great. Not a big deal. It happens. Day two, that's when you redeem yourself. And that's exactly what they did. They came back. They had a great practice. And, when you start whooping Aaron Donald's ass, of course he's going to get upset. The guy, he's number one on the top 100, consensusly according to, the players for this coming season. So, if you're getting your ass kicked by just an offensive guard, you're going to be a bit upset. So I love that emotion. I love the fighting between offensive and defensive linemen. That's always a plus in my eyes because it's just competition and it's just getting better, plain and simple. Throughout that, obviously, you got the montages. You have the different things here and there, offensively, defensively, enjoyable. You have some, the defensive line coach getting after his guys, yelling at everybody. Perfect. I love it. That's exactly what gets me into the football mood. Yelling is perfectly fine. I can tune it out because I've been yelled at enough in my life, but it's perfect. I think it's just fantastic. Now, after that second day of practice and having a good practice as a team overall, moving into that preseason game, it's extremely essential that you're on all, you're clicking on all bases. But going into the preseason game, you don't have AB, you don't have Derek Carr, you don't really have. I didn't see Josh Jacobs play, and I don't think he did play. No Jalen Richard, Tyrell Williams. I don't even know if he participated. But offensively, nothing really much. You had Abram out there. You had the other rookie defensive ends. Both of them, in fact, the first rounder and the fourth rounder. And the interesting thing was Max Crosby, like I mentioned earlier, the guy that we followed throughout the entire episode. We went to a tattoo parlor with him because he was trying to get a sleeve. I love the Mad Max tattoo, Mad Max Fury Road. Probably the greatest action movie of all time, unless you're talking maybe John Wick. Somebody, you can make an argument. Let me hear your argument in the comment section if you've got one that's better than either of those two action movie wise. Okay, someone's gonna say Die Hard. Okay, it's arguable. Anyway, moving on. Max Crosby during the game, obviously as a rookie, defensive end, you've got to make plays. Just pressuring the quarterback, making tackles, making good reads. Getting off the line of scrimmage, making plays here and there. It's not going to make a big deal, but what he tried to do is he tried to pop the ball out by punching at it, and instead he ended up breaking his hand. It happens all the time. Honestly, it happens all the time in the NFL. We've seen many players break their hands, but there was something different with this specific scenario. If we go back to last week and we talk about Ollie, the defensive lineman from Last Chance U, undrafted free agent rookie, a guy that came in and was given an opportunity to compete for a job there in a thin defensive line core as of right now. He had a issue with his Achilles, sure, but he told the medics and he was done. And what happened later that day, he was cut. The complete opposite scenario happened, and I love that it did because many of you who watched last week and have come back this week, can understand exactly my point of view. Ollie didn't want it, right? He was there, sure. He was given the opportunity, but he didn't want to take the opportunity and run with it. In fact, what Max Crosby did this week is probably one of my favorite things I've seen in all of Hard Knocks in all the years that I've been watching. Max Crosby broke his wrist, went over to the medics, to the doctors. Yes, your wrist is broken. Great. Cast it up. Let me get back in there. And that's exactly what he did. He broke his wrist, casted it up, and was out there, on the next drive. That's exactly how you show your passion for the game. You want it. You want to make this roster. You want to be a Raider. That is exactly how you go about doing it. You don't feel sorry for yourself. You don't just, I'm injured. I'm going to take this one off. No. I'm getting in the game, and I'm making sure I earn this job and show everyone that I want this more than anything. And that's Crosby earned my respect, plain and simple. Just off of that act, it's selfless. He is, yes, sometimes you have to be selfish in football. Antonio Brown's showing that as of right now. But as a guy that, yes, you might be hurt and you're not going to do more damage to yourself. But as of right now, he got himself back in the game and he helped his team win. Because he's a great football player, plain and simple. Anyway, that was awesome. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the entire game. Obviously, Glennon threw an interception that was blatantly terrible. And goodness, was Gruden on his ass, and I love it. That's exactly where it needs to be. If you're not making the right plays, if you're turning over the ball, you deserve to be chewed out in public. Exactly how he was on the sideline. Until he can figure it out, or maybe we got to replace you. And then Peterman comes in. Peterman puts together some plays here and there, gets the Raiders down the field, scores. Obviously, Glennon and Peterman both scored, so that competition will stay tight. Glennon's got some more experience in the National Football League, but we're going to see where that exactly goes. We saw Keelan Doss, the rookie wide receiver that we followed throughout this entire episode. We saw him get into the end zone from a strike. What was it, a 3-yard slant from Nathan Peterman on the goal line? So that's great. We got both of our rookies that we followed this week. Keelan Doss and Max Crosby. They were both essential to this episode, and that's exactly why I liked it. Both guys are trying to make the roster. They've got to put everything on the line, and that's what they're doing. Especially for Doss, it was in his hometown, or it was at least near his hometown, so he had a lot of people come out and watch him. It's great to, in your first preseason game, score a touchdown, especially when the wide receiver position outside of AB, Tyrell Williams, J.J. Nelson. Who else did they sign this offseason? I know they've signed other guys. I have the list, but you know what? To be honest, it's eluding me. But many of you Raiders fans out there can let me know. But either way, all in all, great episode, plain and simple. I really enjoyed it. Before we close out on today's episode and my review for episode 2 of Hard Knocks Training Camp with the Oakland Raiders, I want to mention a little bit of the AB situation. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about the helmet grievance. Here's the thing. He wants this Schutt helmet from 2010. The NFL has deemed it unsafe and does not pass concussion protocol or helmet protocol for 2019. A couple seasons back, the NFLPA signed a deal saying these helmets will be outlawed and you will no longer be able to wear them. Last season, I think they signed it in 2017. Last season was a grace period saying, hey, you can wear whatever helmet you want. But this season is when they're enacting it for the future, for the safety of the players. Now, I understand that, I used to play football. Don't get me wrong. If you told me that I had to wear a different helmet my senior year after wearing it for 3 years, and I had to go ahead and wear a different one, I'd be just as pissed off. Because to be honest, it's my body. I'm taking the risk anyway. Whether I'm taking a shot to the head or I'm tearing my ACL, I'm still putting my body on the line. You don't have to get a concussion from helmet to helmet. I mean, shit, if someone puts their helmet in your chest, just the whiplash itself can give you a concussion, potentially. I've seen some crazy things happen. So obviously it's personal to AB, and I understand where he's coming from. So to be honest, yes, it's not going to happen. There's no way they're going to let him play with that helmet. So luckily enough today, actually, August 13th, he did show up to practice. Hopefully he's getting healthier. I know John Gruden's got his back, and I love that. When you go out there in press conferences and you let it be known, hey, this is a personal matter for him. Obviously, the injury is ailing him. We're trying to get better. The helmet, he wants his helmet. That's him. What are we going to do? Tell him to change? No. I love that. Your head coach is backing you. Plain and simple, it looks great. All in all, I had an enjoyable time this week. Episode 2, you can't tell me it wasn't better than last week. I enjoyed this episode so much. I laughed. I enjoyed it. I got fired up. I'm getting ready for the season. August 13th again. And we're a little bit away. But either way, enjoyable episode. Began some storylines on some rookies that I want to follow and see how they progress throughout all of training camp and see where this goes. See where the Oakland Raiders can go in 2019 because I'm excited about it. So anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If you like this content, go down below, click that subscribe button, click the like button. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, go down in the comment section. Let me know. Yes, I'm wearing a Rams shirt, okay? It was the perfect week to do so. What do you want me to do? Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, that'll be probably tomorrow with some fantasy football stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.